Hi everyone, welcome to Freedom Friday. It's Friday. Where you get free tips every week to help you free yourself and live your dreams like I've been able to do with all of these tips that I'm giving you. So, today what I want to talk about, I'm getting a little glare on my glasses here, but today what I want to talk about with you is being able to see that everything that happens in your life is for the greater good, and why it's so important to do that if you want to be truly happy. Because as you may know, if you've been watching all of the Freedom Friday videos, I struggled with depression for many years. I was diagnosed 15 years ago. And only a few years ago is when I started to really change and rewire my brain and change my entire perception about life. And it really has been my saving grace. So recently, again, if you guys are watching Freedom Friday and following along, recently I was in a car accident. And I've had a lot of things happen in my life that are very transitional. And if I had the perception that I have had in the past, I would be struggling. And I would be viewing or judging the things that are happening in my life as these terrible, horrible things that I'm suffering, and it would be really awful, and I would probably be feeling like I'm going against the current, and I would probably go inward and start to internalize this and feel like, oh my God, nothing goes right, everything is just one thing after the other, and there would probably be a lot of frustration. And even when I tell people, like my good friends, the things that I've been experiencing recently, usually the general reaction is, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to go through this right now. You know, I'm having a lot of transitions in my relationship where we've actually broken up. We've separated for the time being. And some things, I'm not in therapy anymore, which I think is amazing, but the reason I'm not in therapy anymore is because I was cut off of insurance, and there's a lot of life things that are happening right now that are super transitional. And for me, I've had to really view things in my past as really through, I guess religiously we could say, looking at life through the eyes of God. And realizing that everything is for the greater good. Some people say everything happens for a reason. Well, I don't only believe that, I know that. I know that in my heart. And it's much more than everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for the greater good. And when I understand that, I can be in this place in my life where things are, the world is just shifting around me. And it can really seem chaotic if I start to identify with it, and if I start to control it, and if I really start to try to make things what I think that they should be, and if I start to identify them or label them as bad. And I can really start to suffer. But what I've been doing is just kind of sitting back and going, now that I have this perception and I've rewired myself to think in this way that everything happens for the greater good, I'm able to step back and go, there's a lot of transitions happening in my life, but I'm good. I'm still good because I know that this is for the greater good. And there's been times, a lot of, I've had a lot of tragedy that has occurred in my life. I think the biggest one that I went through, probably the last two sort of tragedies that we can name them tragedies that have occurred in my life, is my daughter's father passing away. That was a huge transition in my life, and I definitely identified that as a tragedy. And the ending of my last relationship which was about 2 years ago. So those two things gave me the opportunity to really, really grow and learn that everything is for the greater good. Because in those opportunities, and in any opportunities that you have, which I consider any sort of tragedy or shift in our lives as an opportunity to change and to grow. What's happened in these moments for me is that it gives you the opportunity to get down on your knees and give thanks and surrender completely, because when a tragedy happens, you realize that you have nothing to do with it. That I can't control if my daughter's father stayed alive. And it was so out of my hands. You realize when things like that happen that you really aren't in the driver's seat. I mean, we're co-creating, and that's what we learn through the law of attraction. But the truth of it is that there is something so much greater than us running the show here. And it makes you step back and you go, whoa, okay, you got this, because I don't got this, and I trust you, and thank you. And if we just, no matter how bad it may hurt, no matter what's going on, if we just sit back and we go, thank you so much for the good and the greatness that is going to come out of this. You have to know that there's going to be greatness. And don't just know it because I'm telling you, but know it for yourself and practice it. When you're in these moments of what you may call or consider tragedy, step back and start to go, I don't know what your plan is. And if deep down you think that this is something terrible, speak that to your source, whether you call it God or the universe or whatever you want to call that. Speak it. Speak the truth. You got to put a name to it. And you just say, I don't really know what's going on here. And this seems really tragic and it hurts me really bad. But I'm going to try my best to trust that it's for the greater good. And if that's where, I promise you, God or whatever, your creator or source, whatever you want to call it, it will meet you where you are. Because it knows where you are. Because it puts you where you are. Because, as A Course in Miracles states, you cannot be anywhere God did not put you. And, God is a word, I've said this before in many videos, God is a word that I identify with, that I'm okay with. I don't have any issues with saying God, but for me it's the same as the universe. It's the same as the source, the creator, universal energy, whatever. Even science I consider to be the intelligence that runs through all of us, I believe is the same thing as God. So it's not this man up in the sky. I just wanted to clarify that. And it's not really attached to any religion. So now that I've been through this tragedy and these tragic moments, and I've taken the opportunity to grow in these moments, I am now in a place where I can be having this, I don't even know if you could call it trouble in my relationship, because I don't call it that. It's a transition. It's a change in the dynamic of our relationship. That's really, maybe we're just going to be friends. I don't know. It's a change in the dynamic of our relationship. The fact that I got in a car accident and all of the many things that I'm going through, these are just the steps that I need to take. Hey, maybe I'll get a brand new car out of it. Who knows? I don't know. But it was time for a change. And I know that this change is for the greater good because I have practiced it for myself. I know it. Trust me, God, or whatever you want to call that, wants you to test him. And you could call him or whatever. This is just the language I use, but God wants you to test him. And test through testing your own faith. And I've spoken about this before. You don't want to just believe it because it's in some holy book or because you were taught to believe it. You have to know it within yourself, because that truth within you, that is your God. That is the peace of God within you. So you follow what is true to you. And if the words that I'm speaking resonate with you, and you know it for yourself, then follow that. But if it's something that you need to challenge and you need to really figure out, as I did, it took me a few times, a few tragedies to get to this point where all this craziness can be going on around me, and I'm like, I feel great. I mean, I feel better every day than I ever have. And things are just working out for me. I just feel amazing. And all this craziness that's going on, that I don't even think it's craziness. It's just transition, because I don't look at the physical world anymore as reality. Reality is me. The truth within me, that is the only thing that never changes. And that's the only thing that is true. Because life changes. And I'm sort of grateful, not even sort of, I'm extremely grateful to be in this transition period and to be be able to experience this change. And, you know, all of this work that I do to manifest change in my life, you know, we're always taught in the law of attraction that we don't have to focus on the how. You know, how am I going to attract this into my life? That's up to the universe. All we have to do is keep our eyes on the prize, and we will attract it. So maybe this is just the how. And I'm the one that puts the name to it. So if you think that what you're experiencing in your life right now is tragedy, that's just your emotional attachment to it. We can easily detach our emotions from it. And when you realize that everything is for the greater good, that's the best way. I mean, that's the best way that I've experienced. There is this book that I read, and I've told you guys about it. I have it right here, The Power of Now. This was the first book I had ever read. I mean, this book completely changed my life. Because, I'll tell you why. This book spoke everything that I already knew, but I had never heard ever in my lifetime. But for some reason, I knew, in my heart of hearts, I knew that everything he was speaking was truth. And that was an aha for me. And that's why I followed this book. And I really, this has just opened the whole world up. I mean, I promise you, for I think it was, prior to that, it had been 13 years or something, almost, that I had been struggling with depression. I mean, it was like I woke up every day and death seemed better than life. Every day. Not that I was trying to commit suicide every day, but I woke up and death always seemed better. Until I read this book. And it completely changed the way I looked at life. If you have not read this book, you have got to read this book. You can actually get it right from my website, DariaWaken.com, if you're not on it already. Go there, click the shop menu, the shop button in the menu, and it'll take you right to Amazon.com, and you can buy this book right from there. Amazon.com is a trusted site. It's where I buy all my books. So, absolutely. What he said in that book was that in this physical world, one of the universal laws, there's many universal laws, one of them is the law of attraction, but one of the, and he didn't even talk about universal laws, but this is just my own language, but one of the universal laws is polarity. So what that means is that in this physical world, what we may consider reality, which I don't consider reality anymore, but this physical world, the things that we can touch, the dense energy, everything has to have an opposite in this physical world. But when you go beyond the physical world to that string of intelligence that runs through every single thing in the physical world, so that the energy that is beyond the physical, we can't see it, we can't feel it. You can see it in a microscope. Science tells us that if you put everything under a microscope, it's just compiled of molecules and atoms that are sort of flowing together. Nothing really is physical dense energy. Nothing is solid. So that energy, you can call it God, you can call it universal energy, whatever you'd like to, that does not have polarity. that does not have opposites. So there is no such thing as good and bad, right? And what he talks about is that there just is good. There just is. There just is isness, is his words, Eckhart Tolle's words, and it's just good. So that's one of the first steps I had to take, that awakening, and I mean an awakening. If you want an awakening, you have got to read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, or another one is A New Earth that a lot of people really connect with, but this book really I connected with more than A New Earth, which is another book by Eckhart Tolle. But it made me not just realize, but it spoke to me that all there is good, and that felt like truth to me. So, and that's what I want you to do, is not just heed my advice, and not just, you know, do it my way because I'm saying this, and not just believe it because I believe it, but find the truth for yourself. There is something deep within you that knows that everything is for the greater good, that knows that we can call it the kingdom of heaven is within us, that heaven is not this, you know, mystical, wonderful place we go to when we die if we've done all these great things in our lives. It's not it. The kingdom of heaven is within all of us. Goodness is within all of us. That is the core of who we are and what we are. It's just good, and there's no opposite to that. There is no evil. It just is. It's just goodness. That, you know, God is just greatness, and God is within every single one of us. So, when we recognize that, we can start to practice this and put into practice this sort of surrendering when we've been in these sort of tragic moments, or maybe our life situations are just awry. That is the perfect opportunity to just get down on your knees and pray to whatever you want to pray to. But just say, okay, you have taken my life into your hands. Because that's what's happening. You have taken your life into your hands, and I have no choice but to trust you. And so I trust that all of this is for the greater good. And when you practice that in the moments that you label as tragic, those are the opportunities to practice this faith is really what you're practicing. I promise you, I mean, it is an amazing accomplishment for me, of all people, me, who wanted to die, who thought death was better than life for over a decade. And there's plenty of people that have that same, I mean, when you are stricken with depression, the world is so dark. Even if you just think that the world is filled with evil, you know, I was like that. And to get to a point now where I can go through craziness, or at least some things that I would have thought was craziness at another time in my life, and I'm completely just cool. Like, this is amazing. I can embrace it. I'm not just accepting it. I'm like, yeah, bring on the change. I am all for it. Let's go. Because there is greatness behind this storm, right? And you know, I'm the only one labeling it as a storm. I'm kind of having an aha right now as we speak, but I'm the only one labeling it as a storm. And I'm the only one saying that this storm, I mean, I am not the storm. And I can hold God's hand through the storm. He will hold my hand through the storm, and He will guide me He's always there guiding me. And I just have to open myself up to it and allow it to happen and take His hand. And it's really, I'm not the storm. I am not the storm. That's not me. I am this amazing, wonderful, loving being. And I'm just following, you know, whatever happens, it's not me. And you know what? When you've lived the life that I've lived, and you've been on the journey that I'm on, or if you're in your own journey, my faith grows stronger every day. And I'm completely devoted to that which I call God. I'm completely devoted to it. every day more and more. I mean, I would give up everything for it because everything means nothing. Everything in this world means nothing. And anything that He leads me to is better. It just is. And I just know it for myself. So I encourage you to start to really dig into the fact that the core of all of us is good, and that everything that happens in our lives is for the greater good. Everything. And it will lead you to greatness if you let it. If you just surrender. I mean, it's going to lead you to greatness no matter what. But you can go kicking and screaming, or you can just let it take you. And when you do that, I promise you, you will live such a happier life. And it will be better than any dream you've ever had for yourself. So, that was kind of a long one, I think. I don't know. That was today's Freedom Friday. I hope that it helped you. Comment below and let's start the inspiration conversation about your journey and any books that you've read. And, you know, let's all sort of help each other find the goodness within each of us. If you haven't already, make sure that you sign up for these weekly Freedom Friday videos in the email sign up on DariAwakened.com, or you can sign up from Facebook.com as well, /DariAwakened. Make sure you do that because these videos will not be available to the public pretty soon. You know, I'm kind of just trying to start momentum right now. So go to DariAwakened.com, sign up for these free tips, and make sure you can share this video if you'd like, if you think that it was helpful for you. Start the inspiration conversation down below, and I will see you guys next Friday. Thank you so much.